First speaker for tonight is Andy.
Tell the truth now. Boy, honesty, that would be original. Hello, everyone. Andy, alcoholic. Get right to it. You know what? I'm not going to get right to it. I'm going to take a moment to gain conscious contact with my higher power. If you'd like to join me, just be a moment. My sober date is, or actually what I prefer to call my independence date, is June 4th, 2017. The day I'd been to an AA meeting the afternoon before, but it didn't take. At that point, I decided to give it one more try. This is the last place I ever wanted to be. I spent a long time trying to avoid being an alcoholic, even though I knew that I drank too much. In fact, I really didn't even know what an alcoholic was until I got into the program, and I found myself on the pages of the book Alcoholics Anonymous. I had no language to really refer to about that anxiety that I constantly felt, the uncomfort in my own skin, the fear of you and others. I spent most of my life trying to be a chameleon, blending in with whichever group, trying to be exactly what you needed to be so you would accept me. That led to drinking and drugging at what in this group would be considered a late age. I started around 16 years of age, and it just progressed until that's all I did. I didn't really progress. I mean, I've heard told in these rooms, you quit growing spiritually and mentally when you really start your drinking and drugging. So I really stopped my advancement in life at the age of 17 or 18, somewhere right around there. I didn't accumulate or participate in acts of normal, what I would consider normal people. I drank and drugged, and that's all I really cared to do. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, 2 out of 3 wasn't bad. So I just, and I continued that way for a very, very long time. Hot boxing a Pinto, if anybody knows anything like that. We used to hot box a Pinto down at Royal Palms. That's more or less what I did my senior year. Senior ditch day, hopped a fence and never went back. Went through many jobs. One of my first jobs was as a courier, driving from here, from the airport to the San Fernando Valley. You give a kid a van and nothing but free time, unsupervised free time, and there's going to be trouble. I actually managed to get through that job without getting a DUI, although I did get pulled over a few times. And a few of the things that I carried with me all the time were taken out of my van. And they always would ask me, should we call your boss? I was always, no, I'd rather you didn't do that. When I did lose that job, I ended up working in bowling alleys because they were candy stores. In fact, before I started working there, I ended up being there because the one I used to go to, which is torn down and no longer there, but it was a candy store. If you knew the right guy, you could get whatever you needed at these places. And that's exactly what I did. And I participated in that for 35 years. I didn't walk into these rooms until I was in my 50s. It's the last place on the block for me. You've heard that expression many times. And when I got here, I suffered from what I've learned to deem as terminal uniqueness. It was all the problems that were occurring in my life, no one had ever encountered. No one felt the way I did. No one drank the way I did. And if you felt the way I did, you would drink the way I did. But all of this was a fantasy, a flight from reality that kept me going for a real long time. When I first started exploring the possibilities of going into Alcoholics Anonymous, I used to look at the books and they would say closed meeting. And that was just enough of an excuse not to show up at a meeting because it was closed. You couldn't get in there. Until I finally fell upon a meeting that was open, caring and sharing, newcomers welcome. Couldn't possibly reject me at that meeting. That was the meeting I walked to on June the 3rd, 2017. Now, like I said, that was a noon meeting. By 9 o'clock that night, I was crocked. But I had heard one thing in that meeting that kept me going. They said, just keep coming back, no matter what. And that's what I did. I started going to meetings and putting my butt in a chair every night for the next, couple of years. I was either in a pew or in a seat every night because I had no other options. If I was left to my own devices, I would drink and drug again. I proved that so many times in the past. By being in that fellowship for a long enough time, was really not all that much time at all. I got lucky. God granted me the gift of lifting that obsession to drink within the first 30 days or so. In one of those meetings, I did meet the person you'll be hearing speak much more eloquently than I, Kevin. He asked me to cover his commitment, and I was like, I'll get even with him. He's going to have me cover his commitment. I'm going to ask him to be my sponsor. That'll teach him. He's been a great sponsor. He's managed to get me through these 7 years, or 8 years, excuse me. The things that keep me going. Prayer and meditation each and every morning. Thanking God one more day for the ability to participate in my life now, not to drink, not to drug. Being in a fellowship with you, I make it to as many meetings as I can. My work situation keeps changing, but every meeting I can, I get here as often as I can. I love fellowshipping with fellow alcoholics. I used to hang out with nothing but a bunch of active drunks. Now I just hang around with alcoholics. It seems to work really well for me. I also try to do some step work, and I try to be a part of Alcoholics Anonymous by participating in, I'm a secretary at a meeting on Monday night, and I try to get commitments at the meetings where I can guarantee I will be there. These things have kept me going, but mainly I want to thank everyone in this room, those who I know, those who I don't know, that I'm looking forward to knowing, for keeping me going, because it is the fellowship of this program that carries me through. Every time I think I'm terminally unique, I hear one of you speak. You tell me exactly how I feel, and I know I'm not alone. And I'll keep trudging this road. I believe it was Jeff. I hope you keep coming back. This is the place you need to be. Excellent. I'm glad you're here. I hope you'll keep coming back. And I hope all the promises that are promised in the book come true for you as you trudge the road of happy destiny. My name is Andy. I am an alcoholic. Thank you.
All right, Andy. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Now our main speaker will share his experience, strength, and hope. Please join me in a welcoming of Kevin from, where's Kevin? From where? Lakewood. Kevin from Lakewood. 45 minutes, Scott. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Kevin, alcoholic. Kevin Brown, alcoholic. In case something happens and you need to tell the paramedics. It's Kevin Brown, that's my last name. Wow. I'm here. I'm leading the meeting at Martyrs. What an honor. I just have to start with that, so thank you, Keith, for letting me lead this meeting. I haven't been to this meeting in a long time, but this was one of my first AA meetings way back in the day, back in the 90s. Anyone been here since the 90s besides Dick? Right? And happy birthday, Dick, 50 years. Dick was at actually one of the first meetings I had ever been to, the men's stag on Monday night. And I didn't stay sober that whole duration from that first meeting, but I held on to that business card with all the gentlemen's phone numbers, and I called a few guys. And appreciate you being here, and happy birthday. Amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing that we're all here tonight, right? Not drinking on a Saturday night, or at least maybe not trying to drink on a Saturday night. I know we had one newcomer, and anyone else that might have come in or snuck in later, welcome. I don't know, didn't we used to give out chips and stuff like for 60 days, 60, 90, a long time ago?
We should.
I thought it's been a long time since I've been here. My sobriety date is 8/17/2003. So I'm a little foggy from time to time. But I thought it was this meeting, or another Saturday night meeting where I was like, all right, I had a relapse and I was going to come back and, not have to identify as a newcomer because I had like 32 or something days. But at that meeting, they said anyone newer than 60 days, stand up and introduce yourself. And I was like, what? I was like, oh, so I had to identify as being under 60 days. Like it was said, I felt different and I didn't want to be known. And yet dying to be heard inside. I hope tonight that I can scratch the surface of my story and tell you a little bit about what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. And those were different journeys and times while I was out there and while I've been here in sobriety. I'm going to tell some stories. I'm going to give you some good stuff, hopefully. Maybe we'll laugh a little bit, maybe we'll cry, maybe both at the same time. We are emotional and we are sensitive people, so if you feel the emotions, just let it come out. Okay, that was the therapist in me. I am an LCSW, so you have permission to feel. I've done a lot of things in sobriety, but feelings and dealing with those things has been very hard and continues to be, right? Being comfortable with oneself. And maybe we'll get into some of that feeling stuff tonight. But just as I kind of do this intro, just Andy, thank you for coming out and leading. I've known Andy for a long time, and Peter as well, some other folks here that I know. It's just nice to see you all, especially this guy right here, Tree Trimmer Keith. Let's give it up for Tree Trimmer Keith for bringing me here. I swear. I'm going to pay you that 20. Okay. No. Keith has a story that maybe I'll tell tonight. There's so many stories, so I hope to go through some of those. And for my friends or family that might be on Zoom, I'm sorry, I'm going to be honest tonight. Yeah. I was like, maybe I shouldn't give them the Zoom link, and I could be more revealing. And I don't know if my father's on the Zoom call, but Dad, if you're listening, I'm sorry. And thank you, and I love you. If my father hadn't done what he had done for me, I wouldn't be here today, and that was tough love. And my dad took me to that first meeting with Dick, and I heard the message of recovery. They said, sit down, shut up, and turn off your phone and your pager. There's no more pagers anymore. But that message stuck, and so my phone is off, and so I want to advise you and challenge you to not text at all during the meeting. If you want to text her or him, they actually might respect you more if you keep that thing off for a moment. That's my relationship advice for tonight. It's more important for you to be in here, and you'll probably be a better date after the meeting. All right? All right. I'm going to try to weave in some suggestions, but really what I'm talking about tonight is my story. And it starts 6 blocks from here. That's where I grew up. I'm from Manhattan Beach. I live in Lakewood now. I work in Lawndale. I'm still here in the South Bay. My heart, my home is always in Manhattan Beach. I'm not too far away, but I grew up here. The mean streets of Manhattan Beach is what I used to roam through. Back when the alleys were unpaved in the hill section, it was tough. You'd have to get home, and it was a dusty alley. I didn't know all of what was going on in Manhattan Beach. It seemed like a small, quaint, beachy town. My dad was an engineer. My mom was a nurse. We had some parties at the house, and there was booze in the house, and sometimes not a lot of food in the fridge. But we managed and we improvised. But I grew up, and my mom did the best that she could. She put me in a ton of sports, and my dad worked his ass off, and my mom did as well. There's three of us. I got the alcoholism. My siblings, they may have caught something else, but I got the alcoholism. But I grew up, and I played a lot of sports. I did a lot of music and stuff. It's nice to be here with do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. I can play piano. I can't read music. I can't read piano music. But sometimes it felt like everybody else had the playbook in life, and I just couldn't read, and I didn't know the song. At an early age, I felt uncomfortable, and even though I was in these sports and I did really well, I had this discomfort or dis-ease that some people talk about from an early age. It's kind of like, remember back in the 80s when you had like striped socks, and that was really popular? It kind of felt like my socks were always different striped colors, and I didn't want anybody to see that. So I literally would fold my socks over and try to pretend that nobody noticed. Or I was wearing sweatpants that were from hand-me-downs, and I thought they were really cool, but someone would say something about them, and I'd be like, kind of felt like I didn't have the Quicksilver clothes, or enough of those Quicksilver clothes that I wanted growing up. And, then there's the other things that were happening in the home, and it was like, this party is going really loud and really late, and what are they doing out there, and what is my mom doing? And who is that person with her? And, okay, I'll just store that away. And what are these things that are happening in my home or in the places that we used to hang out? And this seems a little bit odd and feels a little funny. Is that normal? And from a young age, like I said, I became more uncomfortable and more aware of my discomfort. And early on, I started turning to things like we often do, especially even after we get into sobriety. We turn to things to make us feel good. And if you lived in that often chaotic, dysfunctional, alcoholic home that I grew up in, and I'm sharing some details, but I'm leaving out others, you would turn to whatever you could turn to feel good. Sometimes I would get lost in TV and watch Knight Rider or Airwolf. Anyone remember Airwolf, right? That was, man, from the 80s, right? I know there's some people here probably from the 40s and the 50s, but I'm from the 80s. And I appreciate all the wisdom in the room. But I turned to things, and I turned to sugar. And I started like eating sugar cereal and be like, oh, this makes me feel good. I'm going to have some more of this. And early on, I turned to food. It was the first substance that I actually ingested purposely to try to change what's going on up here. And so much so that my dad, the engineer that he was, busted out a scale and started weighing the sweet cereal. I don't know if he's listening right now. I'm not going to look and see who's on the Zoom call, but that was interesting. But I was like a little sugar fiend, and it's like, okay, that's cute, that's fun and stuff. But I was creative. I get in trouble, and they would give me bread and butter, and then I'd put some sugar on top of that, and then I had kind of like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and I just improvised, and I was very creative, and I think we are as alcoholics, we get into trouble, and we find a way to wiggle out of it. But what happened after the sugar was more dysfunctional family, and ultimately my mom had to get into sobriety because there's a lot of drinking that had been going on in that home. The infidelity was real, and it was up on the wall. We could see it, and it was a chaotic place, and I needed something to turn to, and I turned to that same liquor cabinet that she had been turning to for a long time. And I found the E&J brandy. I found the triple sec. I found the vodka. Occasionally, I found some really old wine, and I would just drink it. And this was like 6th grade, 7th grade, started getting to this thing called alcohol. And I was like, oh, I like this. This is good. This is good. All right, this works way better than sweet cereal. Now, are there any sweet cereal, late-night sugar snackers in the house? Okay, I know a couple of you, right? We'll come back to sugar in a little bit. But I'm going to put the sugar down, and I started picking up this booze. And so I'm in seventh grade, and I'm drinking, and I'm the ringleader at my house. All my buddies are coming over. The DTC is the group that we used to run with. It was a downtown crew. That's where I'm from, DTC. Okay, it was like a little Manhattan Beach gang, skater gang, old alcohol drinking gang. We used to shoulder tap. There used to be the liquor store down, maybe where Noah's Bagels is now. But we go steal cigarettes down there and just have fun. I had older sisters, so I was watching them. I was like, oh, this is what the older kids are doing. And so I was uncomfortable, and I also wanted to be out of my skin and older. And so I really turned to the older people in my life. And I started hanging out with older people, and then, we're drinking more, we're going to parties. And then, Kevin starts to get a little messy. And I guess my parents, who were in the process of a divorce at that time, started to see, okay, something's going on with Kevin. And say, oh, Kevin, okay, Kevin's been drinking. Kevin's been drinking the booze. And okay, all right. So they said, okay, there's no more drinking of that booze, but they didn't get rid of it. They just kept it there. And they started putting lines on the booze, all right? So if it was a clear beverage, I'd put water in there. And if it was brandy or something dark, I would put Coca-Cola. And again, just being creative and finding ways, because if you are diseased and you're uncomfortable for whatever reason, you got to do what you do. You got to do what you got to do to get what you got to get, to feel that way that you want to feel. And I drank and did other things to change the way I felt, from the neck up and the neck down. That would be my whole body and my whole mind, if you didn't catch that. It's not just the neck up or down. I wanted to feel good, I wanted to feel different, or nothing at all. And I hit it hard. Eventually, they took that booze away, and I had to find other things. We did shoulder tapping, and we would steal alcohol from the Vons down there, and we would get people from Pink Dot. Remember Pink Dot? You could order from Pink Dot, right? Right? Get a couple Zimas, get a pack of MGDs, and K-Big 104 had Disco Saturday nights, and it's like, anyone remember that? K-Big 104? 104.3 Disco Saturday nights? I don't know. Any disco fans in here? There's got to be some disco fans, right? But we danced. We were like 7th and 8th grade, dancing disco, like just drinking. And I don't know where my folks were. Actually, I do know where they were. They were with their lover. Remember, there's infidelity going on, so there's no one watching Kevin. So I just ran the mean streets of Manhattan Beach. We'd get drunk on the green belt down there, and we'd do things and try to get into the Beach Reporter. Is that still around? Is that still a newspaper? The Beach Reporter? Is the Crime Watch still there? I think I've been in there like 7 times. I'm still making amends to Manhattan Beach. Still making amends. There's places that I've been destructive within or did damage to property, and I'm not proud of that, but I'm still making amends to the city. Maybe in some way speaking here tonight to our fellow, if you're from Manhattan or you're nearby, maybe making amends in some way. But what happened is that I needed this booze, and I was going to continue to drink it, and I went on in high school. I got in trouble. You know how it is when you're a teenager and you're drinking, and you're at the hometown fair, and you're making a scene, and then all of a sudden, oh, shit, that's a police officer. Okay, all right, yes, sir. And you put on your best, I'm sober, I'm not drunk. I'm not drunk, right? You put on your best I'm not drunk face. And they weren't buying it. And where are your parents? My dad's at the Mariner booth at the other end of the hometown fair. I don't know if there's any Mariners here. But they had to go find my dad and go get him out of that Mariner booth. And I'm sure he was really embarrassed. Just again, Kevin was acting up and acting a fool. And they had to come get me. I know that sounds like all fun and games and kind of cute and stuff, and your dad had to come get you and pick you up and stuff. But what had happened is I went from using alcohol for escape from my family situation or the stressors of the weight I had or the discomfort I grew up in or with to this thing I actually was starting to lose more control over. It became less and less fun, and I'd be having more and more problems. And cell phones were a thing, and I'd lose my cell phone or my pager. I'd lose my keys. I'd be starting to drive drunk, and I did a lot of drinking and driving around here. Turn off my lights and just go straight down. You know those big hills in the hill section, those real steep ones? I'd go down there, turn off my lights, and just run stop signs. I'd be drinking solo cups, going up that hill, hey, taking, smoking other things besides cigarettes in the car at the same time and putting people's lives at risk and not really caring, not giving a you-know-what. I got to this point where I was using other things as well, a lot of weed. I don't do Cali sober. I suggest you don't either. The drink bone is connected to the drug bone, which is connected to the something's wrong bone. And so I'm not using any of that stuff today. But back then, I did. Remember, anything that you had that would change the way I felt, I will take. You didn't have to tell me what it was. I'll pop some pills. I'll do all that stuff. But there was a lot of drinking. And the drinking really fueled the demon inside. And this guy, Father Leo, used to say, the lion was disturbed. That's how he used to say it. The lion was disturbed. And I was disturbed just at normal. I was disturbed. But when that alcohol came in, the demons came out. And I don't know how I didn't take anybody out. I got pulled over in El Segundo for drunk driving. I think I was 17. I've been stopped before and I've been involved. I've had the police have to come and get me, or my parents tried to repair the damage that I've caused. I've had a lot of car accidents as a result of drinking. And it's amazing that no one died, at least to my knowledge, under my watch. But as I got through high school and started going to El Camino, this is 2001, I was trying to find my way. All my friends were kind of going to college and stuff, and I didn't have the grades for that. I was partying a lot still, trying to keep this thing going, while other people were kind of moving on and being more productive. And at 19, I got a DUI. We went to a party and went down to Hermosa. I blacked out. I don't remember leaving, but I came out of a blackout coming up like 31st and Morningside or something in Hermosa Beach. I remember seeing the stop sign and thinking, I'm not going to be able to stop. Okay, so I hit the gas. There was a bunch of us in the car. I think there were like 7 or 8 of us in this 5-passenger Blazer. I run the stop sign, crash through the barricade, crash through a fence. I'm in someone's backyard now. I go through another barricade of some sort. The wheels are spinning. The car, I'm pedal to the metal. All I hear is, the car's going nowhere. There's a metal electrical pole on this side. There's a telephone pole on this side, just feet away from that car, and that came to a complete halt. And that was one of the first moments where I said, okay, maybe I shouldn't have drank tonight, and got behind the keys, with the keys. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Because the night before I had 2 drinks and I went home. And what was happening at that time in my life was I was trying to manage. I wanted to control it and enjoy it at the same time, but those things are not really possible. As someone else said, if I was controlling it, actually, I almost messed that up. If I was enjoying it, I was way out of control, right? And if I was controlling it, I'm totally butchering that. I'm going to come back to that. Why am I blanking on that one? I think you get the idea. When I was in control, it was no fun, and if I was having fun, I was way out of control. Sometimes I try to quote some people. Sometimes I get it right. My apologies. But what happened is that I was like, all right, this is a moment where I had the realization that this is not working. And I stopped and I got arrested. Everyone took off, all my friends. They had no scratches on them. The Blazer didn't really even have a scratch. I think it was like one scratch on the plastic bumper, but like a rock. The car was good. But I kid you not, it got impounded. I had to go to rehab. I had to go to Torrance Memorial Outpatient Chemical Dependency, which is now Thelma McMillan. That's where my mother had gone in '93. So my mom's sober at this point. She's like, oh, my son, my dad is off doing his thing. They're like, all right, what are we going to do with Kevin? But I went to that program, and I went to the meetings like that men's stag in Manhattan Beach, and I listened to what people had to share, and I was like, all right, I just pushed it a little too far. I'm going to scale it back. And what I tried to do then was go to AA by the court order, and then in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm going to drink again, because I had learned a lot. And during that time at those meetings and in Thelma McMillan, I learned a lot about my family situation. I had a lot of resentment, I had a lot of anger. I was mad at people, especially my family members. And I learned how to accept what had happened to me, what didn't happen. I learned to be okay with the past, and I knew that my parents were doing the best for me that they could, and I knew that I had made some poor choices along the way, but I wasn't even 21 yet. How am I going to stop drinking? Haven't had a legal drink. And so in the back of my mind was that thought. It's like, all right, if things get well enough or things get bad enough, I'm probably going to do this again. And so I turned my back on the program, and the people that had sponsored me, I said thank you, but I'm gonna buy a 6-pack, and I'm gonna drink a couple beers here and there, and then I'm not gonna drink and drive. I got a breathalyzer. I ordered a breathalyzer. So I'm not gonna drink and drive. I'm gonna manage this thing. And so, what do you think happened?
We know.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, I got that first DUI, and after that first DUI, I told myself I'm never going to drive drunk again. I'm never going to drive drunk again. But I turned 21, and I went out with my Uncle George, and I didn't drink. When I was out with Uncle George, he took me back. See, I'm still sloppy. This is actually a bad lip for a water bottle. Maybe we can get that, Nick.
There's a hole right down.
Thank you. I hadn't looked down. I hadn't looked down, thank you. But Uncle George took me out, and I came back on my 21st birthday after just a couple drinks at a nice restaurant down in Manhattan Beach. And I was like, I want to ride that motorcycle I got. Yeah, let's go do that. Because that's what I used to do. I used to ride my motorcycle on the green belt. It was a dirt bike. Or I'd take it to Jack in the Crack and go through Jack in the Crack in the drive-thru on this YZ80 and just like hope I don't get caught. Officer Hagman doesn't come by and bust me because he was my dare officer. I don't know. Again, I don't know how I made it home, but I went out that night and I got back on that motorcycle and I was drunk. And I was down in La Cienega, Manchester, by Randy's Donuts, and I'm like, man, where am I going to go? And I knew, like, in the back of my head, I probably shouldn't be on this motorcycle, but this up here couldn't get me down here to do something healthier or vital for my life. And so what happens, I remember driving, I was like, all right, I'm driving around, and oh, what? The chain on my motorcycle falls off. Or it got stuck or something. Something happened. The chain came off the motorcycle. And I don't know about you, but we have these moments where it's like, okay, maybe that thing up there or that out there or this voice inside of here is telling me something right now. And I pulled over, and I was like, I got to get this chain on. I know what I'll do. I'll put it on, and I'll move the bike forward, just like with a bicycle crank. And slowly, I got that chain back on that bike. And I'm like, all right, I got to head home. And then all of a sudden, my headlight starts flickering on and off. This was a Honda Interceptor 500. It was old. And the headlight's flickering on and off. And I'm squinting, and I'm having a hard time seeing. And I black out. I was blackout drunk. Didn't know what I was doing on autopilot. The tape recorder had shut off. If you've ever been in a blackout, you've put too much booze inside. Your body can't handle it, can't remember it. That part of the mind is not working. But you know what? Some of us think that's fun. And that's how I used to drink. Because I didn't want to have to think about things. I didn't want to have to remember the stuff that had happened to me or the things I did to other people. I didn't want to remember the pain, the responsibilities I felt for other people's drinking and other scenarios in my life. I had a lot of my sister said it the other day. She said, I have an overdeveloped sense of responsibility. I was like, oh man, that sounds like Al-Anon. I qualify for that too. But I blacked out that night again, and I came to in the morning, I'm like, where is the motorcycle? And how the heck did I get home? And all right, I got to chill. No more drinking. No more drinking and driving. And just another attempt, as it talks about in chapter 3, right, to try to manage and control and enjoy my drinking. But what happened is I sank lower and lower, and I knew there was a place to go, and that place was Alcoholics Anonymous. And eventually, what happened was I was like, all right, maybe I need to just go back and just kind of try it out. I hadn't committed, but a friend of mine's mom had passed away, and Karen McKenzie. And I wanted to be sober at her funeral. And so I told myself, all right, I'm going to string a couple days together, and I did. And I went to a meeting in Hermosa Beach at the Alano Club. And they asked me to speak. I got a commitment. I got a sponsor. And I started trusting in what other people had done and were showing me. I said, all right, I'm going to just take it one day at a time. And slowly, life came back online, and I was able to kind of start to sift through all the rubble and the damage from the past. And there was a lot. And we all have different stories. I started drinking at 12, 13. I got sober at 21. Other people come in here in their 50s. It doesn't matter. You're going to have to work through that shit in your step work. I'm sorry. You're going to have to work through it. And that's okay. You get to work through it. And what happened is I started learning about Kevin. My sponsor, Craig Sparger, God bless him. He was a gentleman I looked up to. He talked about being comfortable with his feelings. And I was like, I need that. I need that wise old man, fatherly love, and direction. And he provided a space every Sunday morning. I went down to his house after my MA meeting. I go to Marijuana Anonymous as well. If you're interested, see me after the meeting. I can tell you more about that. But I go to that MA meeting, and then I would go see him in Redondo Beach, and things started to come and make sense. It was like, okay, I can let go of all this resentment. I can let go of all these expectations. I can let go of the past. I can free myself of the future. I was not living in today. Today was where I really needed to give myself some time. But I was so stuck in what had happened and worried about what was going to take place. And I just spin. And then, of course, in early sobriety, I did what everyone else is told not to do. We get into a relationship.
Relation slip.
Yeah. Under every skirt, there's a slip. Under every, yeah. And what happened, I got into a relationship. I started working her program. I had like 5 months, and I was like, I'm making good progress. I'm making real good progress. And then what did I do? I found a girl who had an alcoholic family. It was like, just like my family. But the parents were married, and there was some love there. And I was like, oh man, I need this. And I need her. And I stopped going to my meetings, and I started scaling back. And then my sponsor was like, you're halfway through that 4-step, maybe a quarter way through it. And he kind of like threatened to stop working with me because he's like, you're sponsoring yourself, and I don't know what I can do for your kid. And it was kind of a wake-up call, and I was like, all right. And at that time, I was going to the Hermosa Beach Men's Stag. Guys like Bill C. and Jay and Ira. And just take a moment to dedicate what I'm talking about here to Ira. If you know Ira, he had passed away recently. But guys like Ira who roll up to AA in a limousine at the Wrist Slasher meeting, that was Ira. I'll just take a moment to talk about him. There's 2 guys that I'd ever known to have a limousine at AA. Ira came there in the limousine, and then there was this other guy, Keith, who was driving the limousine. Anyway, these guys at Hermosa Beach Men's Stag and my sponsor, Craig, they had opportunities like the chili cook-off, right? They went to the Salvation Army. I was like, okay, I got a car. I can drive some folks. So I started driving these Indians from this Changing Spirits program in Long Beach. I go from Hermosa Beach down to Long Beach, back to Hermosa Beach for the meeting, and I take those guys back down to Long Beach and then come back to the South Bay afterwards. I got into the middle of AA, and things continued to improve. I went back to school, and I was still in that relationship. I was still working her program, and I was a mess. I was still a mess. But I had a foundation of AA, and there were men in this room, because I used to come to Martyrs a lot. And there's a lot of recovery here, and there's a little bit of discovery. I know some of us put on a nice shirt tonight and took a shower. We were smelling good, and we were hoping to maybe meet someone here tonight. But I want you to remember that this program comes first. Anything you put before it will be taken away or will suffer. And ultimately, a couple years into this thing, I lost that relationship with that girl. And I had another emotional bottom in sobriety. I was like 25 at that time, and still firmly connected to AA, and at this point, wrapping up a bachelor's program and working with parolees in Orange County and helping people with substance use issues, and just giving back. Really, I'm just kind of giving back. I'm working with myself, really. But this program was the hub and continues to be the hub. I can't rely too much on what I did last week or last year or even yesterday. I got to make sure that I'm keeping this program alive. And I would work with people, and people like Peter and Andy carried me through when I'd be just spinning in my mind. And I didn't have the best example of love growing up. My parents did the best that they could, but I didn't know how to be in a relationship. No. There wasn't a lot of physical stuff between my parents, but it was all verbal. It was all emotional abuse. It was all that stuff that you stuff down inside because you're like, oh, how do I interpret this? And so I didn't know how to have a loving relationship with another human being. And that poor girl, she didn't have the best either because she had that alcoholic home. It was like the two of us were trying to do the best with what we got. But my sponsor would be like, oh, read a book like Mars, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, or The Sensuous Man, or Tough Guys, GUISE. And I was like, okay, there's a lot to learn. The Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous was the first book that I really picked up that helped put the pieces of my life back together. But it wasn't the only book. And so I'd read that daily Meditation for Men by Hazelton. And I was like, oh, this is good. This is some practical stuff. It's like, oh, I got to take care of myself. I got to continue to take care of myself. All right, no relationships right now. That relationship finished. And here I am 5 years in sobriety. And I'm going back to school again, and I'm pouring myself into work and into sobriety, and I'm just learning how to love Kevin. And if you haven't done your 4th step or your 9th step and gotten a chance to really make amends to yourself, you are selling yourself short. We have to be compassionate with ourselves. We have to forgive ourselves. We come in here with a lot of stuff. I think I left out a lot of good, juicy details tonight. I'm sorry, folks. Maybe you'll invite me back. But we all have that stuff that's just way, way down in here. The skeletons in the closet. It prevents us from getting close to people. And I learned in that men's stag that it's really about relationships and about how the relationship with ourselves, the relationship with God, and our relationship with others. And so I continue to do that and work on me. And, I went from year 5 to year 6 and 7, and then I slowly started getting into another relationship, and then I was like, oh, this is unhealthy. It's like, I don't think we should be together. And I did the healthiest thing I'd ever done in my life. It's like I broke up with someone because I was like, this is unhealthy. And I'm like, oh, man. And then I text her the next day, and I'm like, I still have feelings for you. But we can't hang out because I don't think we should, and it was like that kind of stuff. I'm like, man, this is really healthy. Like, Kevin is like healthy, right? This is like I could write the book now. Meanwhile, I'm still dealing with other family things that are going on, and about 10 years ago, I have a stepbrother, and he took his life. He took his life. He had the addiction, and it's like, oh, we're kind of rocked again. It's like, oh man. Or the other people in my life, the other family members are unhealthy or hanging out with people that aren't good for them, and I'm trying to be a resource. And it's like, who am I to speak and who am I to judge? We're all just trying to do the best we can. But I would weave in things, and I would offer what I could to people, especially here at AA. And this program really taught me how to show up for my family. If it wasn't for this program, I would have nothing to offer them. So I show up to the funeral service, and I show up to the family functions, and my dad gives me a key to his home again. And I got to make amends to my father and amends to my stepmother. And that was like the hardest thing for me to ever do, was to make amends to them. Because I put them through so much, and they didn't give up on me. They just had tough love. So if you have teenagers that are drinking, tough love is the thing. And yet we want to be a wet blanket. We want to comfort them, but we don't have anything. We can't keep bringing them in our homes. We have to set boundaries with people. And my parents set boundaries with me. But I kept going back and pushed myself in my career, and I guess my life looked attractive again. And some random evening in November, that girl who I used to date early in sobriety, she texts me and asks me how I'm doing. She had been drinking that night. No joke. She'd been drinking. She told me later, she's like, I had like a couple drinks. I just want to know how you're doing. Because I left her alone. I hurt that girl so much. I was breaking up with her. I was toxic. I want you. I don't want you. I need to spend time on me. I need to let you be free. I need you. Does that sound familiar? Either you or your sponsee. We've all heard it. But that was me. And that girl texted me, and I was like, I don't know why you're texting me, but I'm so happy I got this text, right? It'd been like 5 years or something, or 4 or 5 years. And I let that girl go and try to move on. But she hits me back up. And we start talking, not dating, but we start talking. And ultimately, you know what happens. We go to the beach, and I'm surfing down there, and I'm living Redondo Beach, a block from the beach. I got a killer pad and a killer bod, and I'm broke. I'm broke because I'm a starving student in grad school, but we fell in love with one another again and pursued a healthier relationship. We've been married 11 years. Yes. I don't wear a lot of jewelry, but this is gold. This is what I got. Yeah. And we got 3 kids. And I was thinking, I'm like, do you want to come with me? She's like, I got to go to Lily's karate. And who's going to watch the other kids? Sometimes it's hard to get a babysitter. But I'm like, I'm going. And you can watch the tape afterwards because it'll be on YouTube. Thank you. But what happened was this beautiful thing, this program has given me an opportunity to start again. And so we worked on that relationship, and we got married. And my line of work today is where I spend a lot of my time, but it's still, work is where you go in between meetings. Okay? Recovery is number 1. Okay? Followed by your health. Then your wealth, and then your relationships. Okay? So recovery, then your health, then your wealth, and then your relationships. Now, it doesn't mean you treat your wife or your friends or your kids poorly. It doesn't mean that you can't go to the gym. And it doesn't mean that you can't go on a yoga retreat. Or you can't go to concerts and you can't have fun. But anything I put before this program gets taken away or suffers. So I have to remind myself and get back to basics if I stray away from them, that I need to be in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous or Marijuana Anonymous or an Al-Anon meeting or a CODA meeting or a Families Anonymous meeting or Adult Children of Alcoholics meeting or any other meeting that ends with A, because I have a lot of things I still need to work on. I'm a work in progress. And so are you. It's okay. You can admit it. We're all a work in progress. I'm running out of time. I got to tell you a couple more stories, but I try to stay humble, and I try to remind myself that I don't have this thing licked, because the moment I think I have it all figured out, because I have advanced degrees and I have certification to practice psychotherapy, and I work with at-risk youth, and I got awards for being this of the year or all that kind of thing of the year. I didn't get a father or husband of the year award. But it's hard to do all these things and excel at your work and excel with your passions. I'm a musician as well. I love to make music. Being creative is one of those things that this program really allowed me to do and get back into. I would stay up late, early sobriety. I go to that wrist slashers meeting at the Alano Club in Hermosa. I'd come back and like make music till 4 a.m, go to El Camino the next morning. I had so much fun in sobriety. I used to ride motorcycles more. I got kids. I'm not on the hog or the bikes as much anymore. But I go to meetings in Topanga with this guy Keith, and one time we went up there and we were driving through Topanga Canyon. There was like hot chicks dancing in the middle of the street. We're like, what the heck is this? We're going to stop, right? We both look at one another. We're like, we're stopping. And long story short, when you come to a festival in the middle of a street in Topanga Canyon, you should be cautious about what you put in your body. But Keith comes back with some cookies, and he's like, Kevin, have some cookies, man. It's free. It's free. And so I have some cookies, and then he comes back a few minutes later, and he says, Kevin, how many of those did you eat? They're pot cookies, man. They're full of weed. I just talked to the lady. And I'm like, are you serious? We were on our way to a MA meeting, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I just had a laced cookie, so watch what you put in your body. Keith goes, I'm just joking, man. But I've gone camping with friends in sobriety. I've traveled across the country. I'm not like a worldly traveler, but probably 85% of where I go, I'm going to a meeting. Costa Rica, Canada, Florida. I haven't been to the East Coast, but I've been to other places, and I go to a meeting because wherever I go, I bring my alcoholism with me. Don't think because you're in a different zip code, you're going to be spared or you're going to be good. No. Bring your message of hope and recovery and show them how you do it here in the South Bay. And I think I have 1 minute, and so I just want to really say thank you again. I feel like I've only scratched the surface, but I hope I said something that resonated with you and that you can take with you and we can joke about down the road. So thank you so much for giving me that opportunity. All right. Thank you.